Hey folks, this is Brian. We finished up playing another session of RQG. This session, one of my players couldn't show. He was actually at a wedding for his niece in South Carolina, so he wasn't able to make it. And one of my other players was a bit late, so we actually started. We decided to start without him at a certain point, but he showed up right about then, so didn't miss out. The session was actually fairly short, and if you watch or listen to live plays, it's in the description. There's a lot of quiet type down stuff because we do two end of season phases this session. So they gather up Veranos and a little posse of his, and they hit Apple Lane and then Black Spear and then Clearwine. No encounters. Well, encounter with farmers, right? So, but while they're at while they're at Apple Lane, they're put up by the Thane there because hey, he's got a visiting Thane. He's going to put on the show kind of deal, have a little mini feast and put the party up and that kind of stuff. And they're at the Tin Inn, just kind of chilling and talking and stuff. And and they're asking about what kind of things are going on. And actually, no, that would have been the Thane's place. Unless he used the inn. He may have used the inn. Anyway, so what kind of things are going on? Well, first off, the Apple Lane folks saying, why is the Lord of Runegate coming through here? What's happening? What's going on? We've heard some rumors about things not being so well up there, and so there's that kind of stuff going back. What's the news? What's the news? What's the news? From the town people asking the visitors, and the visitors, saying, "Oh, what's happening around here at Apple Lane?" And it comes out that there's been some bandit attacks in the area. There's apparently some kind of a troll gang out doing stuff. And David asks if, have they seen any, Malia worshippers or increase in disease spirits or baboons showing up. And at that, Quack John kind of perks his bill because he hasn't had any ears, tweaks his head, and mentions that some baboons had visited with his master, Gringle. Probably a few weeks ago now, but they certainly went away upset. But he didn't know what was going on. He wasn't involved with those discussions. And so the party decides, let's go talk to Gringle. And in the vein of your Glorantha Wilberry, I know there's a series of things that Gringle's pawn shop's been tied to kingdom events in the past. So the current Gringle's is destroyed. But I'm backtracking because none of my players have done Gringle's pawn shop, so we have that as a possible in the future. But then in the future, I can do those series of things that have happened to Gringle and his pawn shop, although they won't be for the same reasons that they had happened in the canon past. So I've still got options of things to happen here. So next morning, everybody's packed up, ready to go. The party jumps over real quick to the pawn shop and ask. We heard about this thing with baboons, what's going on, and Gringle's kind of I'm a pawn shop here. I'm not a purveyor of information, but yeah, they claimed this item that I had acquired a few seasons ago is an heirloom of theirs, and they weren't willing to pay for it, so I'm not willing to sell it to them. So yeah, they were upset. But nothing really comes to that. And so the party, well, thank you, we'll be on our way. Yeah. You don't have anything to pawn up? Shoot. So they head on back down to a Black Spear and into the Clearwine. Same sort of thing happens at Black Spear. The Thane puts them up and lots of questions about what's happened in the world. And they ask the same thing about anything around Black Spear, dealing with trolls. And and disease spirits and molly worshippers or anything like that. And nothing, although, it is dark season, so we would expect to see an increase in troll activity in the area, but we haven't. And they get to Clearwine, and they're brought to see the queen, and a couple things happen up there. There's a formal meet and greet kind of thing, and the party is there with Veranos, because Veranos does want to sing their praises, because they did help him out a lot. And the next night there's an official welcoming feast. And then, where's my calendar? Jarstakos noticed at the formal meet and greet that Queen Laika seemed to be almost giddy. So the party's theorizing, okay, could it be because of what the party did for her and getting RuneQuest, RuneGate, Lord of RuneGate to come and not make obeisance, because he came seeking aid, which she graciously acquiesced in the right word, agreed to, and or if it's something else, and it's kind of something else, but it's certainly tied into that. A couple days later, they're told to come back midday, 2 days from then. No, it wasn't. It was at that meeting with the queen. Okay, the day after the feast, the party is brought back to the queen, and she has a little thank you ceremony, right? It's all very formal, and she asks if they have a boon that they wish to ask of her. What can she do for them? And of course, this puts them. This is what can we ask for? What would make sense? What are we doing? So she says, take your time, come back in a couple of days, and we can discuss what she can do for them. And so the parties, thinking in the back of the head, what we ask them for, that kind of thing. First thing is, what kind of value we're talking about, to get things in the ballpark. And the last time that they were rewarded by Queen Laika was 50 lunars worth of stuff. Some people got rings, some people got clothing, that kind of stuff, right? And I'm kind of guessing for what she's seeing happening, what they have done for her is worth 10 times that, which would equate in the book for, training for a power increase roll, something like that. Or training for a stat increase. That's all 500 lunars, right? So that kind of fit that kind of thing, a very special kind of thing, right? And so, if somebody asks you how much is a hide of land worth, that's 400 lunars. So, okay, that's kind of the same vein of things. And a couple of them come up with a couple of ideas, and as the session went on, a couple more people came up with some ideas. So, but it's like, okay, we will retcon this particular event once you guys figure out what you want. But we're going to go with the rest of the game session, which is end of season phase, because we're done with dark season, and there's some worship ceremonies so people get their rune points back, that kind of thing. And then we go through end of season phase. So a lot of downtime is doing end of season phase, and you don't do those very often. So sometimes it's what are we doing? How do we do this? That kind of stuff is going on. And I like to do end of season phase piece by piece, so that we don't get lost and have to backtrack and all that kind of stuff. So the first thing we do is check marks. Go through all your check marks. Next thing we do is in between adventures is a chapter. It's experience between adventures. That doesn't make sense either. But it's the 4 culture, occupation, skill rolls. And while in the book it says you can't check mark things you've already previously check marked, I don't worry about that, because we just did all of our check marks and erased them all. That gives a chance to get some of your key skills that you specifically as a character are working on an extra chance to try to get, because once you're up high, and almost all the players for those skills are already high, it gives you a chance to really actually increase. Not much of a chance, but an extra one, right? So we do those, and then there's training, and then there's research, and there's and the way I treat it is you can train one thing and you can research one thing. And most of the party's been researching characteristics because to train characteristics is expensive. 500 lunars, right? Insane. But casting a rune spell costs 20. Point of power? Only 20? That kind of thing. But we'll address that later. So anyway, so that's what they've been doing. In fact, some of them got to make increased rolls at the end of dark season, which one made it. Jerstakos, his charisma went up by 1 point, and this is now 14. I believe is what he got. So what I was getting at is there's training and there's research. You can do one of each, and I've been saying one skill, one characteristic, because you certainly can't do two. You can't train and research characteristics. That's just too much, in my opinion. But I can see training and researching a skill. I don't know why, but I kind of see that. But right now we just do one of each or the other. So if you're training a skill, you can research a characteristic. If you train a characteristic, you can research in a skill. So that's how I'm kind of balancing that out and still getting both done. So we went through all of that. Something about Miriam. Oh, Miriam had a power gain check roll. So we did, that piece, and some discussion about that whole deal. And then, so once that was all finished and we're all okay, it's the start of storm season, right? Everybody's ready for storm season. So I randomly determined when adventure is going to occur. And it turns out that the next adventure doesn't occur until the 8th week of storm season. So we do another session of end of season phase, right? So it's most of the season, it's not like on the 56th day of the season all these things happen, right? The bulk of the season, you learn these things, you're able to do these things, and just happened it was the beginning of the season for this because the last week they get called up to see Queen League. And it's very interesting that it snowed for almost the entire week prior to them being called up to see Queen League. So I thought it was kind of interesting. So I mentioned that. But on Water Day of Truth Week, they're summoned to see the Queen, and she has been getting reports from Two Sisters and Horsetown and Runegate about this increase in bandit activity up there, including a band of baboons and trolls. In addition to regular bandits up there, and she remembered them mentioning baboons around Roomgate and baboons with other stuff they've had, so she wants them to go investigate, find out what's going on between Roomgate and Two Sisters. Find out what's going on. So they kit up and they same pathway, Black Spear, Apple Lane into Roomgate. Again, no encounters en route. They ask about things at Apple Lane. Again, the Dark Troll gang has increased activity on the road between Apple Lane and Redbird. But they're not here near the village, and it's not like he can afford to send people patrolling the streets. That's what the Queen is for, right? And the clan, they're supposed to take care of that stuff, right? Keep the roads safe. So they get to Roomgate. Go again, report to Veranos. And Veranos is doing much better, and Queen Lika, good to her word, sent a number of healers and such up there to take care of Roomgate. So Roomgate's been all cleaned out. Everybody's good and healthy. No more disease spirits hanging around. So it's back to normal activity. And they've got a replacement at the Lightbringer Temple. And at that point, we're hitting a quarter till, so I said, hey, this is a good stopping point. You guys good with that? Yeah, they're good with that. And so we put the brakes on till next game, which is May 20th. We did discuss as a group something that one of the players and I had discussed earlier. You may have seen on, I guess it was on Facebook, that circular calendar with the seasons and the runes and all that kind of stuff. And it got him thinking about, or got us thinking about what the book covers for sympathetic magic for sorcery. And we were thinking, it'd be really cool, flavor wise, for the world of Glorantha to have anything that's rune associated be affected by the sympathetic magic. So during fire season, fire rune stuff, inspiration, etc., or rune spells using your fire rune are easier to accomplish. And the flip side of that is, I think it's dark season or dark rune. So during fire season, your darkness rune is not so easy to invoke for inspiration or to cast rune magic associated with it. That kind of stuff. And of course, there's the whole day of the week and the week of the month kind of stuff too. So there's all kinds of this matrix, if you will, of modifiers that affect our runes and how we interact with them, which we all agreed we're going to experiment with, see how it goes. I do think it will bring a lot of flavor to the game of being Glorantha. The fact that during on Fire Day of Fire Season during Truth Week, your Jamalians are going to be kicking ass. That kind of stuff, right? So I think it'll do some stuff. I do. One thing, one of the players had asked if there was any way to augment his heirloom, because he's thinking of a boon from Queen Leika kind of thing, right? In the back of my head, I have magic items that not only increase your skill, like most in the book, you've got, there's that harp or whatever that adds to your play, and the elves have got those leaf cloaks that add to their hide. This is magic items that increase skill percentages, right? Well, runes are essentially a type of skill. They're tree-like skills, right? So it seems to me that you could have a magic item that increases your air rune by so many percentage points. So I asked him what his air rune was, and it's like 80. And I could see a plus 10 object being about 400 lunars compared to value. And so, yeah, it's possible she may have or have access to a sword. In his particular case, I would have made it a rapier that adds 10 to your air rune. I've also got on the flip side of that, in order to use certain magic items, you need to have an air rune or a elemental rune or even a power or form rune of a certain value or higher, or to invoke a certain capability out of an item, you need to make a rune roll to do so. That kind of thing. That's been rolling around the back of my head. So I'd made a couple of luck type rolls to see, does she, could she, but this rare kind of stuff. So, but he wasn't able to find it. But still, that capability is out there. Which kind of reminds me, the heirlooms. There's an heirloom for a weapon with a +1 hit points, because they're not called armor points in RQG. +1 hit points. If you can make a weapon with a +1 hit point, can't you make armor with a +1 hit point? Right? It's just specifically special redsmithing, right? And so I pulled out, I'd say it, Mongoose Runequest, where they've got the armoring kind of thing, and you get these effects based upon how successful you are and how extreme the event is going on. And so this kind of gets me into this whole fine weapons and armor stuff that I've always taken from, well, I've always applied from the fantasy trip, right? Now, fantasy trip is very specific about you can have it balanced so it's +1 to hit, and it can be strengthened for +1 damage or +2 damage. So it's very, very limited. But I do have rules somewhere to talk about how you can do this kind of stuff. Although for the hit points of items, it was +2 per effect, if I remember right. But so there's these things that are out there that you can do mechanically to affect skills and stuff, such. So in fact, the party at one point had a a pair of elven boots. They were sandals made out of plants that give you a +20 to sneaking or to move quietly, right? That's how I apply that, so it makes sense to me. So that's how I do it. And I did the +20 because the leaf cloak was a +20. So that's just kind of the baseline. Elven cloak and boots. Oh, also, one of the players asked about me putting together a cheat sheet on inspiration. What do runes really apply to? And while it's pretty much laid out in a couple of pages in the blue book, there's some quote cheat sheets about what these runes do, but it's all verbiage, right? It doesn't really apply. What does that mean, kind of stuff. But, what does it apply? Like air applies to swords specifically. It applies to manipulation skills specifically. That kind of stuff. So I put that stuff together because otherwise they feel like they're floundering on. Well, for me, it makes sense that this rune would apply to doing what I want to do here. How do I argue that to the GM so he buys off on it? That kind of stuff. And I've gotten easier over the past couple of years. Because I used to be, just because you have a death rune doesn't mean you kill everything, right? So I want to separate their soul from their body. I want to use my death rune to increase my axe percentage. That really bothered me at first. Now I don't care. Sure, go ahead, whatever. I'm not that loose, but I'm getting looser. Okay, so party's moving. They're getting back to where I need them. However, they're not ready for the next chapter that I had planned for the game, but I have been piecing together an interim chapter that they're going to walk right into now. Bandits, they're the greatest. Happy gaming.